All right, that noise you're hearing, that's the storm brewing up. The winds are blowing, especially this week here at Sportsvival. We had the NBA draft, the NHL draft, and the NHL draft finishes up tonight with their second round through seventh round tonight. So a lot of draft stuff going on. The draft storms are picking up, the winds are picking up, and we got our favorite hockey analyst on here today. We got Darren Vicklis. Darren, NHL draft last night. Pretty cool how they had some comedians, some actors, some singers, some
The
ex
Goo Dolls
players.
out of nowhere.
Yeah, they had Adam Sandler literally announcing a player whose favorite movie was Happy Gilmore with the in Happy Gilmore he wore a Bruins jersey. The guy got drafted by the Bruins. It was a neat symmetry last night in the NHL. So we'll start off with the first overall pick, of course, was no surprise. It was Matthew Schaefer. The kid's story is pretty well known. He lost a mom and a billet mom in the same year. The Islanders did a classy thing, I thought, by putting the cancer ribbon on his jersey. I think they had her name, her initials stitched in the back. I thought it was a good draft by the Islanders, and I believe the Islanders went on and had a wonderful draft. Who was the first player that you thought, wow, I can't believe this team is taking this guy?
Nashville taking Martin.
I agree with that. That was the first time I was like, whoa, that didn't go to the script.
Like, I think he's a very good player, and he's going to be a very good complementary piece could be a very good complementary piece. I don't think you take a guy whose projection is rough and tumble complementary piece at number 5, right? Sorry, I'm adjusting my camera. But that pick felt like a reach to me. To me, that Nashville screamed Higgins to me. That should have been who took him. They've never had a center that good, ever. When your best centers ever are David Legwand and Ryan Johansson, like, you need to do something to address that position. And I don't think Brady Martin does that. That was the first major reach. And then Buffalo taking Radek Murtka felt like a bit of a mistake there, too, a bit of an unforced error.
Yeah, and it was funny because, I mean, they were live during it, and usually the draft analysts don't sort of throw a guy under the bus, but when Murtka got taken, I can't remember her name, but the female draft analyst basically said, "Oh, this is a reach. This is
Leah
like
Hextall,
she was basically right on it, saying this is not a great pick." And they went right to the Buffalo guys, right after they talked to the player. It looked like the one was a little bitter because they just got to hear the same thing that we did at home. But I agree with you. I thought they were two of the bigger reaches. Who do you think won the first round? And I'm going to start. And I was texting this last night. I think that the Islanders, and I know it's hard to lose the first round when you have the first round pick, but I thought that they did a phenomenal job in their 3 picks, getting Eklund and then also getting Aitchison. 3 guys that I thought I wouldn't have been shocked if they went in the top 10 to 12 picks. So I thought the Islanders did well.
They traded Noah Dobson, which is why they had those extra picks. And then you come back and you basically replace Dobson with Schaefer plus Aitchison. So you kind of have retooled the right side of your blue line overnight. Now, it's going to take some time. I wouldn't be shocked if Schaefer plays this year, but I don't know if Aitchison will. He's going to need some time. Mm-hmm. And then you have Eklund because they're kind of bereft of forward prospects. So that definitely helps. And then you still wonder if they're going to move a guy like Barzal, whose timeline now just doesn't match up with whatever it is they're trying to do in a total rebuild. So I think just for sheer volume, they came away good. But I think San Jose, just by simply not screwing it up and taking by far and away the best forward in the draft and Michael Misa, one thing we kind of disagreed on, I thought Misa was the best player in this draft just by virtue of being a center. The position just means so much. San Jose having Celebrini and now Misa down the middle, that's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, that is a solid one too. If I've ever seen one, it's not Crosby Malkin quite yet, but it's there, man. They have 2 potential superstars down the middle. There's no doubt about that.
Their 1-2 punch is going to be 2 centers who their floor is their point per game play driving centers. That's the floor. Like Celebrini could I had to adjust my camera again. Celebrini could very easily turn into like, what if Patrice Bergeron was also a 90-point player, which is an outrageous ceiling.
I agree. And Misa just came out of nowhere last year. I mean, 62 goals in 65 games.
Functionally
Everything
a
I've
goal with
heard about the guy. Yeah, everything I've heard about the guy. He's just a phenomenal, like electric type player. And Celebrini, we know what he's about last year, the first overall pick of the draft. So they basically, in your mind, basically got two first overall pick centers back-to-back seasons, if you look at it that way.
I think so. I think it, like I said, it's not quite Crosby, Malkin, or McDavid, Draisaitl, but like the potential was there for it to be something really, really special. Especially when you throw in they have Eklund and Will Smith as wingers to play in that top 6-2. Now they need to address their decor. Like that was the thing. If the Sharks won the lottery, I think they probably would have taken Schaefer because I think they just do not have enough back there at that role. But I mean, you have time. They're not going to be competing next year. They're going to be a bottom 5 team again next year. Maybe that's where you look to get your franchise D. But those two teams, I think, come away looking the best. The Islanders, who are just starting their rebuild, and this is a really good start to that, especially when you factor in they're almost certainly going to trade the likes of Pellick and Barzal and those guys as we go forward. And then I think the Flyers coming away with Martone is a big one. Now, I still think they should have gone center. I think McQueen or who the Penguins took, Ben Kindle, any of those guys, I probably would have considered. But if you just go on pure talent, Martone was probably the second best forward in the entire draft.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's a power forward that could. They're set at right wing for a while now with Michkov and Martone. That's a great 1-2. But you said like who's going to center them? And I did mention to you off the line they got Zegras, but as you said, Zegras really hasn't.
He hasn't cemented as a legit. He's a legitimate top 6 forward. I just don't know if he's going to stick at center in the way that you want.
And one other thing that the Sharks' second pick, we didn't really get into that, was Ravensburg. Him's a goalie, and I the more I read on him and the more I look on him, the future at San Jose, having him and Asparov going 1A 1B could be huge in the future too for San Jose. So don't sleep on that. There was 2 goaltenders.
Goalies are a bit like lottery tickets. You can't, even if you have a good prospect you think is airtight like Askarov, you probably want someone else there. Not dissimilar, because most people listening to this probably Penguins fans, not dissimilar to the Penguins having Blomqvist, Miroshev, and Larson. Like, you want multiple guys at that role because goaltending's so erratic, just so erratic. So normally I hate goalies in the first round, but since you got a legitimate franchise center already, maybe taking a flyer on the goalie doesn't bother me as much, even if I think they maybe should have gone defenseman with the pick.
So who was your, what pick during the first round was your favorite pick? Like a pick that you were just like, you know what, that maybe it could have been later in the draft, but like in the first round, maybe you were just like, you know what, that's a great pick for a team. I think he's going to fit their mold. Like what was that one player that you thought was a perfect fit for a team in the first round?
So not to cheat, and I'm not going to take Misa again because that would be my answer. Like, I think that just fits so perfectly for what San Jose wants. But the Flames taking Reishi late in the teens there, I believe 19th overall. That to me is a team that has no centers in their system at all. They have a couple good defensemen, so you don't really need to reach there, but you needed centers. And just Reishi stands out. And then a lot of scouts have been comparing him to Nick Suzuki, where he may take slightly longer to develop, but once he's there, he's going to be like a consistent 60, 70-point two-way guy. Getting that at the 19th pick, that feels like a steal.
And then they got the fastest guy in the draft at 32, that Colin Potter, who really came on at the end of the year at Arizona State last year. So, I mean, that's another team I think I'd put them in the top 3 or 4 in the first round, what they were able to do with their draft picks. So I agree with that. Before we go on, we're gonna have a little advertiser here. This is Laway Draft. This is Laway.
I think we lost JT, so hopefully he comes back here.
But sorry about that. Yeah, I was supposed to I'm supposed to be able to talk, but I was out of the out of the state. I'm getting used to this, for everybody. But All Pro Embroidery, Loewe, it's a great company. If you need sports stuff made for athletics, if you need them for like summer league stuff, baseball, they do everything. They pretty much do all the Thomas Jefferson stuff, all the Baldwin stuff. They do a lot of the Brentwood stuff. They're a local company here on Streets Run Road. Go out to Streets Run Road. Tell them that Sportsvival sent you. My wife is actually one of the embroidery people there, so it's 4854 Streets Run Road, Pittsburgh, PA, and it's 412-942-0735. Let them know. Talk to Keith. Talk to Matt. I went to school with Matt Roma. Great. They do great work there. All the Sportsvival paraphernalia that I got is from All Pro Embroidery. So hit All Pro Embroidery for all your athletic needs, sports needs, bowling, whatever it is. If you school stuff, whatever you need, they will hook you up with whatever you need, and let them know that Sportsvival sent you. So as we go on, I gotta get used to that. I thought I was talking while I was in the back room. I was trying to take me out, get their
You're
logo.
good. I just that connection for a second.
Well, I'm actually glad you told me that, because I would have did the whole spiel thinking that I did it and came hit it and came back in. So as we move on, as you said before, we got a lot of Penguin guys out there, and the Penguins had, I think it was 3 people that texted me, including my buddy TJ Chapman, who's another Sportsvival analyst who does college football, but he's a fan as well. So upset that Anaheim took
McQueen.
We had McQueen right before the Penguins had a chance to, and I'm not gonna lie. I talked to you before about pick 2 or 3. I asked you who you thought, and you said if McQueen's there at 9, or no, is that McQueen is there? No, Hagens was there at 9. You said,
oh yeah,
you'd be blowing up Buffalo. Then you didn't mention McQueen. You mentioned Eklund. You mentioned Jackson Smith, I believe, is the 3 guys that you
Aitchison would have been like the second defenseman there. Like there was 5 or 6 guys that I kind of had in my mind would be absolute wins, which isn't to say the Penguins don't come away with a good draft. I don't want to be super pessimistic there. But nothing broke their way. There was none of the movement that people had talked about prior. It was kind of outside of Martin going to Nashville. It was pretty much chalk picks across the board of what people thought. And Pat Verbeek loves his big boys at center. He has Leo Carlson. He has Mason McTavish. And now he has Roger McQueen. So I'm not shocked they took him. The one thing that did shock me, though, is the Penguins trading down with Philadelphia, of all teams. And I think Philadelphia kind of wasted the trade-up pick taking Nesbitt. I don't think he was a first-round player at all. But yeah, the Penguins end up with Ben Kindle, who I think is a safer pick than what Roger McQueen would have been. Roger McQueen was definitely higher ceiling, much lower floor.
The back problems, and that could be something. And we've dealt with that in Pittsburgh with, of course, superstars that have had back problems, and it's not something that you can just fix overnight, and it's not something that will ever go away 100%. And I do believe in it. I don't think a guy with a back problem, I think you're always going to have some issues. I don't care what, and if he's missed a legitimate amount of games with the back problem, so I think it's something that I love him. I agree with you. If the guy comes out and becomes a 80-point, 40-goal scorer, I would not be shocked.
Yeah, and I think Kindle, his ceiling is lower, but the IQ is there. I think he could be a number 2 center on a very good hockey team. Like the Penguins are early in their rebuild. It's really hard to assess this draft because on July 1st, some of the limited move trade clauses on guys like Rust and Raquel, those go out the window. So then all of a sudden you have a lot more flexibility to move these guys. There's already been talks that Erik Karlsson's willing to go. So this offseason's probably not done in terms of them procuring prospects because of what they're going to get for those guys. So I'm not going to doom and gloom on the draft. Now, do I think Kindle was maybe a bit of a reach? Yeah. But if you just want to build a safe prospect pool that you're building up from the ground up, because Koivunen and McGroarty are going to be in the league next year. So you have no forwards outside of Tanner Howe and these more complimentary guys, Avery Hayes, in the minors still. So I think Kindle, you get Zonin later on, who I do like Bill Zonin. Like, is he going to be a first-line forward? No. But is he going to be a very good player that I think can contribute meaningfully to a good team whenever you're coming out of the rebuild? Absolutely. And then the Horkoff pick, I'm not quite as high on. But if you want just a depth guy, a big body, that you can maybe let him develop a bit at Michigan in college hockey and bring him in a little bit later in his developmental timeline and see if maybe anything sticks. I mean, you can't teach size, and Horkoff certainly has that. So all in all, I think giving up the second, you come away with those three guys. This is a good baseline for completely reestablishing the prospect pool, which is what Dubas kind of came in, and it was hard to do that at first. This was the first year he could really try and do that.
And do you know the last time we had 3 first-round picks? What year was that?
Oh, God. It was when they got Bodger, who they ended up then flipping around to go get Barrasso.
It was 1984. In 1984, we got Lemieux, Bodger, and Bellinger, which he never really made it to the Penguins. But
8 years before.
Yes, that's crazy. I was 10 years old, so it was I mean, of course, it was a franchise-changing draft because you can't go wrong with Lemieux. I mean, it was like but it would get Bodger, and then they got Ballinger, and I think Dubas did do a good job. I think we might have been able to come out of this with maybe a higher end prospect, like if you stay home with our second pick, of course we can get. We could have got like a Jackson Smith or maybe a prospect that might have a little bit more of a ceiling. But I think right now the numbers are there. Getting 3 first-round picks. I don't like the fact that we're out of the second round, though.
We have multiple thirds, though, in fourths, correct? Where they could
make a move and move up. And I still think, like you said before, I think there's some players involved. I think you're going to see more NHL-type players traded today. Maybe not just the Penguins, but I think in the league in general. And that was one of the things that was strange yesterday. There was no real movement with players as much as just draft picks getting floated around.
Yeah, because, I mean, in Buffalo, those are a lot of the guys that you hear about getting moved, and Buffalo potentially wanting to trade back. Obviously, that didn't happen, but yeah, I think there's gonna be more movement. But all in all, I would give it like a B because it was very safe. It was a safe draft. Like Zonin and Kindle in particular are almost certainly going to be NHL players. How high the ceiling is, maybe not. Kindle's definitely higher. Like Kindle could pop and be like a 30-goal guy. He has the hands to do that. But that's probably not the most likely of outcomes. And then he is more of a risk. You're taking.
He's a late bloomer. I mean, that's one thing about him. He just really started coming into his own later on. So he's got the NHL blood genes. I know that's not a guarantee. I mean, there's been plenty of. I mean, look at Jocelyn Lemieux.
Bigger and stronger than his dad. Sean Horkoff wasn't a player, but his kid probably has already 20 pounds and 3 inches on him. I mean,
Horkoff was a good, like, third, fourth line grinder kind of player. So this kid, I mean, I still think his kid's going to be I told you off the air, I think a third line. Don't compare him to Jordan Stahl, but compare him in that role where maybe he's a guy that just he gives you sparks on that's what we need. I mean, I think it's one thing this team is not established in the last couple of years is we don't have that like spark plug third, fourth line players that are just like, wow, we needed that. Everything's coming from Sid. The second line, it seems like you're getting in droughts where like 4 or 5 games go past, and Sid's basically part of 80% of the goals, kind of thing. I think the depth is starting to come there, and I wanted to ask you about one thing that's happened here recently. It wasn't real big news, but prospect-wise, it is Ponomarov. I always say his name wrong. Vasily Ponomarov. Is that how you say it? The kid from Carolina.
You got it right there. Yeah,
Ponomarov. Yeah. He went back to Russia, and I know Dubas was sort of bent about that. How big of a loss is that for the Penguins in your mind?
It's not a major loss. He would have, honestly, that's maybe who Horkoff replaces now in the talent pool as that big, not necessarily big, but depth center that you're looking at, depth forward. Ponomarov to me, or Ponomarov, see, I did it there too. He was always going to be a fringe NHL guy with some upside you can bring up. And then he wants guaranteed playing time. And the Penguins are in a spot where, no, we're retooling. You're also competing now with Avery Hayes, who's a young forward in Wilkes-Barre who impressed, who can also fill that same role, who maybe has a higher ceiling than Ponomarov. So to me, I'm not losing sleep over it. Does it suck to lose an asset for nothing? Sure. But you still come out of the Gensel trade with Ville Koivunen, who looks he's going to be a legitimate NHL forward, and Harrison Brunick, who I think is the guy that might be the young breakout Penguin of the year, almost making the camp out of 18 last year, or making the team out of camp at 18 last year, now having another year to develop. If you came out of the Gensel trade with Brunick and Koivunen for having no leverage, even though now you lose Ponomarov, that's nothing. And then Cruz Lucius is still there, who's kind of a unknown entity.
And what do you think about Ilyin? We just signed him to a 3-year deal, another Russian that I've heard some great things about him, and he I mean that's another guy in the pool. I mean our talent pool is getting there. I mean honestly, I think once Hockey News reveals their top their top 32, which we started at like 30 back when Dubas first got hired. Now we're breaking into like the lower 20s. Do you think the Penguins can crack the top 15 here, but possibly if after the draft picks and the trades?
They're going to fall depending on how Ben Kindle is valued and if they still count McGroarty as part of the poll, because he's going to be on the league. If McGroarty's part of the poll, I think they fall 14, 15, 16. Mm-hmm. If they count McGroarty as gone, I think they're going to fall 17, 18, which is still an improvement. And then again, I have to add the caveat. There's a lot of smoke that you see about potentially Brian Rust, a win now team who maybe only has 1 or 2 blue chippers left in their system, may be willing to part with them. Depending on what you get for Rust and Raquel, they could be so much higher than what I just projected.
That's true, and even Carlson, if some team overpays for an Erik Karlsson, which I think that would be an over.
Carlson, to me, you're probably going to take a mediocre contract back, a 2nd-round pick, and a B minus prospect, which I'm fine with, because that's more ammunition you can flip later to do other things.
I'm definitely happy with that. And TC Javor, our big hockey guy, says, just happy to have 1st-round picks back. Man, it's been a while. And I agree with you. I mean, it was nice to know. And it's been a couple of years where you just sit there and watch the draft, not knowing, hoping that maybe it's a trade up or something. It was nice to see the Penguins sort of control their destiny in the 1st round. And like I said, I'm happy with the 3 picks. I'm happy that we got 3. I think you keep you're not going to hit on everybody. That's no team hits on everybody, but you get enough guys that you're giving chances to, and you have enough prospects to give chances to. I think that's where you start to hit on. Don't follow the Pirates in that aspect, because the Pirates got a ton of prospects, and it seems like we never really improved. But I think Dubas is on the right path, and I agree with you. I think if you move Russ, you move Raquel, you move Karlsson, and the bring back is.
Nola Chari's on the block too. No, I don't think you're going to get anything for a Chari, but like, again, you can get another depth pick, which is just, I keep saying, rounds in the chamber. It's ammunition to do other bigger moves, because they have so many seconds over the next 2 drafts after this year. Obviously, they've none this year, but they have so many seconds and thirds over the next few drafts. You can get aggressive. You're not going to make all those picks. Maybe you only keep 1 2nd-round pick next year, but you use the other ones to move up in the 1st round for wherever it is you end up. I mean, because the Penguins, make no bones about it, they're going to be worse next year. I think Rust, Raquel, Karlsson are all going to be gone. I think there's a chance that even guys like Kevin Hayes, Nola Chari, those sorts of dudes are moved. And then the Penguins are going to flood the team with young kids. And even if it's going to be fun to watch those young kids, they're not going to be a good team yet, right?
It's going to be that team that loses like 6-4s. We might have games where you're like, wow. It's going to be one of them years where you sort of try to look, man, in 2 years, this team, it's going to be a lot of that talk. Like, hey, in 2 years, this team has potential. And you mentioned this we talked about this in past podcasts. You wanted the Rangers to hold on to that pick 12.
I'm going to
explain why.
Say this.
You're freezing up. Your video is gone. I think what Darren was trying to say is Darren froze up. We wanted the Rangers to have that to keep their pick, not give it to the Penguins this year, because next year's talent pool is a lot deeper. Are you there now, Darren? Or nah, he's still frozen. Darren, you there? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, JT.
Yeah, Darren, you're freezing up. Your video is freezing. But next year's draft, the talent pool is a lot deeper. So the Penguins having 2 picks next year you would have had a better chance of getting greater talent. So I think Dubas did a good job by taking them 2 picks and making 3. And I think Billy Zonin is going to be a fan favorite here, the way he plays. He's relentless. Bill Zonin's a relentless player who just his skating's not the greatest, but he's going to be a guy that plays hard. He's going to be there you are. Darren, you there? Darren, you froze up. Your video froze up.
Yep. I apologize. I had to reset my router.
You're cutting out a little bit here even now, your mic. But I explained to the fans what I think you meant is like the the draft pool next year is a lot deeper. So that was the reason we wanted to see the Penguins basically get their draft pick for next year. But I mean, he did a good job taking the 2, making it 3, which is sort of what I explained out of it. Can you hear that? Can you hear everything here?
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're sounding clear now. You were starting to crack and break
Perfect.
up, and then you're frozen.
See, I think something happened. I had to reset my router. Your screen went totally black, and I lost everything here for a second. But yeah. So what I was saying, it pretty much what you said is you're more of establishing a baseline for the prospect pool going forward, and what you want to look for next year is, does Rucker McGroarty turn into a legitimate first line forward? What do the young goalies turn into? And does one of Pickering or Brunick really take that step on the D-court? Those are kind of the 3 things as a Penguins fan you want to go in the next year looking for. You're going to be bad. I think they're going to be one of the 5 worst teams in hockey, especially if they move Rust and Raquel and don't take NHL roster players back. I almost don't want them to, because I don't want them to self-sabotage, to go on a heater for a month. You play your way out of a top 3 pick or something like that.
I agree with you. Do you think this is something that it's been told to Sid and Malkin and the guys, like, hey, this is
I'm sure
what
they've been told, and Malkin's probably leaving at the end of the year, and it's up to Sid. If Sid wants to go, he's earned that right. If he wants to stay here and keep the continuity and continue to be part of the Penguins, he's earned that right too. I've seen a lot of conjecture from national guys, and I'm not going to name names because I'm not on the internet to pick fights, but people were like, oh, they owe it to the Sidney Crosby to trade him. They owe it to let Sidney Crosby do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, he has earned that. If he wants to retire here, great. And then people go, oh, you're going to ruin the rebuild. I'm going to let these people in on a secret. Sidney Crosby, while great, is no longer good enough to stop a team from tanking on his own.
There's not a player in this league. There's not a player in this league you could add to this.
Older Lemieux. Yeah, unless you get obviously, Miracle Land, you get Connor McDavid, right? Like, you're a playoff team probably, because Sid and McDavid are going to score so much. But you're not a serious contender even with that. And that's really the only player you'd get that would elevate everything. Maybe like a Cale Makar or something like that too. But yeah, they're going to be bad next year. You kind of have to make peace with that. And I think most people are. I'm old enough now to remember the Sid rebuild. A lot of the fans aren't. So I'm going to be really curious to see how that goes, just with general reception from the fan community. But they're not going to be good. You have to hope the young guys like Koivunen, McGroarty, Pickering, Brunick, you're going to get more of these Wilkes guys called up, like Tanner Howe and Avery Hayes. You're going to get a lot of these dudes called up, and you just hope you hit. And you also have to keep in mind, you're not going to hit on every one of them. They had 3 first-round picks this year. Make peace now. Only 2 of those 3 guys, statistically, is probably going to be a viable NHL player. You just kind of have to make peace with that. You don't hit, because they're lottery tickets, and as scratch-off tickets, you don't hit on every single one.
No, I've been dealing with the draft stuff now for insightfully, for 10 years now, with football, baseball, basketball. I mean, it's amazing how many guys you think even some of these guys we talked about might not do it. I mean, it's very slim that a Michael Misa won't be a great NHL player. You sort of have them kind of guys, but I mean, even in some of them top 10 picks, there's no guarantees. I mean, we've seen it how many times in the past. I mean, Neil Yakupov, how many points did he have in his career? I think he's beaten us by maybe 30 points right now, and we didn't play a game. So you have guys that just don't pan out. That's just the way the draft is, and I agree with you. I think 2 out of 3. If you get 3 out of 3, if you get 3 out of 3, you're a very lucky team. That's even like the Islanders, who I think did really well with their 3 picks. They have 3 guys that I thought were top 10, top 15 prospects in this draft. So. But Darren, we're past the draft now. Now the free agency is just crazy in the NHL, because it literally is over in 6 hours. I mean, the big guys are gone. It's like a quick. It's almost funny. It's almost like going to the. It's like back in the day whenever. It's like Black Friday. I mean, hey, go to the store, get in there. If you're the first one to get to the guys, get them and buy them as quick as you can, because that's how fast that they go.
Yeah, well, and then especially Sam Bennett re-signed.
Yeah, Sam Bennett. We're having trouble with your audio, Darren. But Darren, thank you so much for being on here, the NHL Draft podcast. We will talk maybe later about who the Penguins get.
Absolutely, and Sam Bennett re-signed, so now that pool thinner of who people are going to want. So it's going to be Marchand and Marner are probably the two big.
All right, guys, we lost Darren. But guys, thank you so much for coming on to this NHL Draft podcast. And TC, you're right, man. That's how the NFL draft has always been and always will be. That's why there's minor league teams. And anytime you draft a guy that needs 2 or 3 years, you don't know what you're going to get in them 2 or 3 years. Like these college kids, this Horkoff kid, I like what they see in them, and I see what they see in them. But 2 to 3 years to progress, you never know how that's going to end up. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. www.sportsvival.com. We are the Draft Storm part of our podcast, which was today, is part of the Villain Media, and here they go.